Do your thing. Okay, 3, 2. Hi, everybody. It's got Daniel Garcia. I'm Tyler Pritkin. This is Jonathan Farrell.
Hey,
we're
how's it
the Two
going?
Mortgage Guys team coming to you from Bean Coffee Roasters in Wildemar, California. So we always appreciate them helping us out here and lending out the espresso room.
The espresso room.
The back espresso room. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is, my brother did just come back from 6 months overseas. He is in the Air Force from the Middle East. So just, of course, a big thank you to all the men and women that, put this ultimate sacrifice on the line in all branches of service for us. So we do really appreciate that. And so we always do whatever we can for VA loans. And I know right now we are doing something where it's $800 off of $800 lender credit, that goes towards closing costs. So I know Jonathan could probably elaborate more on that one, but
Right. It's kind of funny. We always say, like, yes, we want to help our vets out as much as possible. The biggest thing that we want to do is we want to take care of them on the lending side. I'm going to segue a little bit into that. I was reading an article, and there are still a lot of people that do not understand the VA loan. The VA loan is the best loan program that is out there. 100% financing, no mortgage insurance, lowest interest rate. Sellers have the biggest misconception that they have to pay for the borrower's closing costs, and that is absolutely not the case. VA loan, where they're thinking, oh man, if I accept this VA loan, I'm going to have to pay, and that's absolutely not the case. We just actually had somebody who said, well, I'm not going to be looking at accepting any VA loan on this type of property, and I think that that's a travesty. So
It's
again,
just lack of education.
It's lack of education, thinking, now I'm going to have to pay $8,000 on top of that towards the borrower's closing costs. That is certainly not the case. The veteran does come up with their own closing costs on top of the 100%. However, there are many ways that we, the lender, can help them, and that's through either a lender credit or kind of like our little deal that we're running right now, where we're actually giving an $800 credit towards our fees, knocking those in half. Also, when you take a look at an appraisal, the VA is the only transaction where they do what's called a Tidewater initiative. And basically, if the value is not going to come in, the VA appraiser gives 48 hours for the seller to provide enough comps to support that value. No other deal does that. FHA, FHA conventional, they just give us the appraisal, and it's $15,000 less. And then we have to go and fight that from there. So again, there's a lot of misconception with the VA loan program. I think it is important for real estate agents to educate themselves specifically on it. It's the best program that's out there, and we want to be able to help our vets as much as possible.
So another big misconception that is said about VA loans is a lot of times people think that it has to do with the debt to income ratio, just like other loans. That's not necessarily the case, because there's a different way of calculating whether the loan is satisfactory or they're in satisfactory standing for that. And it has to do more with what's called the residual. So it takes, it does take your debts into account, definitely. It takes, you kind of your paycheck taxes taken out of your pay, whatever type of income you have to raise that. It takes estimated maintenance that would cost for the land, and it comes down to this formula on an analysis sheet that we have, and then as long as it meets that residual amount, whatever it's calculated to, it's good. I mean, we've had people as high as 62% back end that can get approved. I mean, FHA and conventional loans, we can't do that. With that, I mean, you're going to get turned down at pretty much every time. So that's just kind of another thing there that people have. And then the other thing too has to do with the entitlement. That's kind of a big misconception on that as well.
Right. You can own more than one VA home.
Yeah.
And so people say, well, I own a home in Virginia. I own a home on the East Coast. I got transferred out here.
Yep.
I have to buy putting, a home
Go conventional or
or different type of loan program. So that's certainly not the case. VA allows you to own multiple homes. So you just have to take a look at how much entitlement is remaining.
Right.
We, the lender, calculate that based off of a borrower's certificate of eligibility that we get from VA. And we have to calculate how much entitlement was charged on the previous VA transaction. So we have had multiple people that have bought a home out on the East Coast get transferred out here and buy a second home with VA. I think that that's pretty important too.
Yeah. It's a huge advantage when you think, again, back to just simple education, that we as a lenders take it personally to know how to best use these programs for the benefit of the veteran, because they don't get educated enough on how to use it. As a veteran, you don't know what's available to you. Unfortunately, there's just not enough that's that's shared and educated on that. To the real estate agents out there that are helping veterans, if you don't know, that's why we're here to help you as well, so you can then give more power to that veteran, and as they're looking to really see all the options, all the money that they should have coming to them, many facets of the ways that we're trying to support the veterans of our country that are keeping us a free country.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And again, coming back to it, our biggest goal is to educate, right? So there's great programs that are out there. We also have a lot of veterans that say, hey, I do want to buy this house as a conventional because I'm planning on moving back home. I want my full entitlement back when I move here. So again, there's a lot of different factors when it comes down to that. The best thing that you could possibly do is pick up the phone and call a loan officer and talk to them, especially someone that knows the VA program. I'm not going to say we're the VA gurus. However, we do a lot of VA transactions just because we're so close to Camp Pendleton, San Diego, March Air Force Base. We work with a lot of members of our military, especially with retired veterans as well, that they call Marietta, Temecula, this area, their home. I would just say pick up the phone, call somebody that does have that type of specialization. There's a lot of loan officers that don't know how to do a VA loan. I find that crazy. That's one of the things we do a lot of these types of transactions.
Yes.
When it's always an advantage to talk to multiple people. If you're gonna start this process, if you talk to one lender and you get an answer that may not be the full answer, they may not know all the possibilities. Talk to someone else. You might get the same answer, and that just confirms what you learned, or they might have more experience or something that opens up a whole nother door of options that you might have missed if you had just stuck with the first person that you talked to. So don't be afraid to talk to a few people. Don't let them rope you in on one conversation. That you're there to be educated so that you can make the best decision possible for your well-being. And we understand that as we're working with you, others should understand it as well. If they don't, that's kind of a red flag on how they're working with you. So
that's well said. So like I said, we're two mortgage guys here in Wildemar, California, discussing VA loans, some VA misconceptions, ways for the veterans, active, former military, to be able to help you best, because once again, we are the land of the free because of the brave.
Absolutely.
So, just anything, is there anything else that we've left off? I know we talked about entitlement. And by the way, entitlement, you can use more than once. Like I said, Jonathan mentioned, we talked kind of about DTI misconception. We've talked about the misconception of sellers not wanting to maybe extend VA on selling their property.
I know something that came up earlier on as I was learning. Jonathan can explain it and elaborate a little bit more on it, but just the housing allowance and how much money is actually available as a veteran. It doesn't have to just come out of your main paycheck.
Right. So, people take a look. So if you are active duty, you know about BAH, you know about BAS. So we as the lender can actually utilize that. If you are active and you do have those, we can actually gross that income up by 125%. So if you're receiving $2,000 a month, you can get $2,500 as qualifying income for that because it is non-taxable earnings. Okay. We cannot utilize that if it is part of the GI Bill. GI Bill income is not something that can be used for the purpose of qualifying somebody for a VA loan. And they do receive BAH with GI Bill. So unfortunately, we can't use that because it's not documented to continue. However, let's just say too, if you got a family where the spouse is also a veteran, you can buy multiple VA properties that way using one person's entitlement on one, and then later on using the other person's entitlement. So we don't technically do a lot of like the joint type of financing when it comes. We don't use joint entitlement. We use the one, so that way there is an option to buy in the future using VA on the other if you are using your full eligibility. Awesome. So there's a lot of different things that do come into that factor. Again, if you are planning on buying, we ask that, of course, that you would maybe reach out to us first because, again, we do have a lot of knowledge when it does come to VA clients and purchasing, and we want to make sure that we can help as many veterans as possible.
Yep. Yeah, like I said, once again, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Anything else, just give us a call, and we can help plan the best scenario for you and your family. So thank you again.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.